You're listening to QCast, presented by Qcella Media. Please consider giving generously to Qcella's nonprofit mission. To find out more about our mission and to make a donation, visit our website at qcast.qcella.org. Your tax-deductible donation will help us continue bringing you quality podcasts just like this one.
I may be bruised, but I'm not broken. You can't take away my soul. You tried to tell me I don't count, but I know in my heart that's not true. So you cannot take me down that path. I'll make it without you. I may be bruised, but I'm not broken. My life counts for something, and you wake up and I'll be gone. You'll know that you were wrong. Welcome to my show, Shades of Gender. I'm your host, Terry Ryan. Thank you so much for listening to our show today, where we'll be talking all about gender identity, including dual gender, transgender, cross-dressers, non-binary, and any other term that's associated with gender identity. The definitions of these groups are really misused often and certainly misunderstood. And the gender identity issues have continually evolved. And every day it seems that we're coming up with a new term to identify our gender. So today is an important day as we are dealing with going forward after the COVID-19 shutdown. It is about 10 weeks in. I'm in Palm Springs, and we continue. We're actually just starting up with the new season, or after being shut down for a while. So today I'm very happy to have you as an audience, and I'm very happy to have Kirk Thomas on. Hi, Kirk.
Howdy doody.
Howdy doody. And Kirk, I must say, is AKA Khloe West. So that'll give
Thank you.
You bet. So we could call Kirk Khloe. What do you want to be called today? Khloe or Kirk? What are you feeling like? Khloe?
You know, you can just ping pong back and forth, because and just to fill in a funny thing, before I got my drag makeover, an old gal pal of mine from junior high and I were trying to come up with a good drag name, and all the drag name generators just turned out garbage. So we came up with our own algorithm of, it had to be a name that was a modern-day celebutard paired with old-school Hollywood. So the Khloe West is actually a mashup between Khloe Kardashian and Mae West.
Oh, fabulous. What a great visual. So you got a Kardashian in there with Mae West, which is really quite exciting. I mean, wow, that's quite a combo. Right? And then when they see you, which, we're going to put images up on social media and bring you to life here, but when they see you in your femme form, really... I know you really play with makeup and dress, and so that brings me actually to, I always ask my guests, just since we're a gender specific kind of show here, of where you identifying the gender scale, how would you answer that?
You know something? This was very interesting, because I was asking my wife about that, and once she's gotten used to just this being me, I came up with, it's like non-binary, fluid. It's like I have, the performance art side that does drag. But she came up with something that I've never heard used before, but I thought was absolutely brilliant, which was undefined.
Okay. So that would be kind of the non-binary, but it's a simpler way of saying undefined. So you're
yeah.
Which
I like. I never actually followed through on it, but when I was in school and in college, I had great interest in English, so I kind of like fiddling about with the English language, and sometimes I use more complication to say something simple, but just because it's fun. It's like the same way that I know that cross-dresser has become a more acceptable term than transvestite used to be. But I've actually always preferred transvestite because it sounds a little edgier, more continental, and I like using old language.
I like the term transvestite too. I'm with you on that one. I mean,
thank
right.
you.
No, I like transvestite. I think it sounds edgier, and I think it's kind of more, it has a history to it, right?
Well, yeah, and it actually
really
sounds
does.
more continental, and I figure if it's good enough for Eddie Izzard, it's good enough for anybody.
Well, Eddie Izzard, interesting. Yeah, and the old Monty Python, which...
Yep.
Yeah, and I do say, I mean, those guys like dressing. Some people would say they're making fun of women, but I don't think so. They they liked it. The old Monty Python circus was remarkable to me. But so yeah, so I there you go. So the transvestite, undefined. I mean, it's so funny because I know you're a bit of a rebel from what we talked earlier, and it's interesting how you say that, because it would be typical, I would suspect, I don't know you that well, but you would say undefined, because what our society tries to do is define us, and what you spend your life doing is not being defined, right?
And that's one of the things that I thought was kind of brilliant, given our brief chat earlier this morning, just to get to know one another, because it's like, okay, undefined. It's like, well, define undefined. And it's like, nope, sorry.
That's what I mean. It's that the whole purpose, since you like to play with the English language, but the whole purpose of undefined means that you can't box me. You just can't. You can't box me on this. But there is a. Which I guess in some ways, gives you, the ultimate freedom. And I do think, well, there is a group out there that are undefined. It's another term where you fit on the gender scale. So, but let's move on a bit. So, you have you're married, right? I think you said like 38 years now, long time.
They will be in November.
All right. Well, congratulations. That is a long time to have any relationship.
Thank you.
Do you have children?
No.
Okay, so
my wife would, however, tell you that I was wrong, and she has one, and it's me.
Of course, I can see that too. And you're equivalent, like maybe to two, right? Having two children. So,
well, probably it's like one of those things that I joke around with about the myth of maturity. It's like males never actually mature beyond the age of 14. They actually just learn how to move through society like an adult.
Right. Well, that's an interesting way of looking at it. That would explain a lot of things. So maybe I'll have to take a look at that one. But I have to. I know that cross-dressing or dressing in women's attire and the persona came later for you, but you did have, there is something a little deeper than this. You did have kind of a revelation at a later age. Tell us your story on, when you really started just kind of tuning in on how this could be something that you incorporate in your life.
It's interesting because, as we chatted about briefly earlier, it's like I had a how should I say it?
Epiphany?
I had a ridiculously high-powered engine driving a 2-speed transmission that took me from 0 to 60 in like 0.8 seconds with the makeover. And then when I was unexpectedly but good-naturedly outed, we went from 60 to 160 in about 2 seconds. So it's been an interesting thing.
Well, okay, so we need to back up for our audience because they don't know. So I'll start and you can finish. So you actually decided one day about how many years ago was this?
Well, let's just say to make it short, because I've gotten good at explaining this.
Okay.
There was a practical joke that the wife and I were playing on her friends on Facebook that slid tragically sideways and ended up with me with painted toenails and red peep-toe heels, and all of a sudden I look down thinking it's going to be a big joke, and the first thing that crosses my mind is I feel pretty. And at 51 years old, it's like, holy hell, how do I process this?
Right. I mean, you liked it. So you did it when you first got dressed up in drag, though. Your wife, how did that happen? You know, I saw the video on it, and I forgot the video for those that want to see it. Where did they find that video? It was through, it's on YouTube.
You know
right?
something? If you hit YouTube,
yes,
and you type in the query box, straight husband goes drag, surprisingly, I'm about the only thing that pops up.
Wow. Interesting. All right, so it would be, so go to YouTube, straight husband who goes drag. They're going to see you as a Khloe West, or are you under there as Kirk Thomas?
It's kind of the first thing is kind of a montage, but if it's a video that's by a now sadly defunct production company called The Stylish, and it runs about 17 minutes and 2 seconds, you got the right thing.
All right. And then how did you get involved with The Stylish? I mean, was this the first time out when you were starting to dress in drag? I mean, I know you had a total drag. You know, you have a beard. You had a beard in this particular. I don't want to give away the video because it's certainly worth the watch a couple times.
And again, thank God I've had 9 years to make this, a quick story. But the nail painting thing happened in late 2011. There was some friends that took us to a performance, completely unrelated, and it was kind of a comedic thing. It's called Lucha Vavoom, if anybody's heard of it before or cares to look into it.
What is it?
And
was it a play?
It's kind of musical theater, but it kind of involves like old school Mexican wrestling with people in masks, and I mean it just goes all over the board.
Experimental kind of theater, experimental. Fantasy.
But there was this one line of dancing girls that they were in the typical Mexican dress that you might expect, and doing traditional Mexican dance until two start peeling off, and then there's the one central dancer left that is just moving incredibly, looks gorgeous, and then just rips the dress off, and it's a man. And it was like, holy hell. It's like, I thought I had a better eye than that.
Oh, wow. You could not see the difference on this at all. So you were just shocked, right? Yeah.
Well, no, it just surprised the bejeepers out of me. And so from then, it's like, I started looking into the person who mercifully... we're now Facebook friends, which I consider a great honor. But it was a life changer because it's, I'd paid attention to like Warhol and the Factory and things like that when I was growing up. But this was the first recent exposure to it. Anyway, jumping fast forward quickly because I know we don't have endless amounts of time. From that, one of the friends that had invited us to that event challenged me to do drag for Halloween at a mutual friend's party. And, it's like I have a beard at the time, and I don't know what I'm doing with makeup or anything like that. So I just, decided to go weird, sleazy looking, and... it wasn't sleazy looking. It was just, it was not a professional look, shall we say.
Right. You still had your beard, right? I mean, you were...
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Right. You're
totally.
dressed as a woman, but you're wearing your beard. And it sounds like some people at the red dress party that I see here that don't take it as seriously as, which is a red dress party is for the LGBT Center. And they do, the center, they do this great fabulous party where everyone's wearing a red dress, but some of the guys that come in, or we don't know. I mean, they're just perfectly done up, in perfect drag, and some of them just come in with their beard. So it sounds like a similar kind of thing to you. That's kind of where you started. Then you probably wanted to perfect it, right?
Well, yeah, and the funny thing about it is I didn't think about perfecting it a lot more until, and this is how I crossed paths with the Stylish, because I was familiar with them as a channel. I did not know. I don't think I knew that they were doing the show that they did a few episodes of called Transfashionable, which had to do with drag makeovers. And I was watching one of their episodes of something about, like earn yourself a makeover, by commenting on, I don't even remember what it was, but it was some beauty-related thing. And I just weighed in voting for somebody else and their story, because her story was that she'd really like to win this makeover for her mom, because she's a single mom, supporting 2 kids, working multiple jobs. And I thought, something that's sweet. And because I try at least to be, a funny guy, I just weighed in the comment thing. It's like, I definitely think that she needs to win this prize. I said, if you want to talk about somebody that needs a makeover, imagine, a 50-some-odd-year-old guy in his first year in drag. That needs a makeover. And I was just being silly with it. And a few weeks later, I get an email, and it's like, would you be interested in doing our show? And I'm figuring, yeah, I'm in L.A., and this is Hollywood, and I'll never hear from it again. And I said, sure. And then a couple weeks later, it's like, okay, we've got these dates set up. Can you do this? And blah, blah, blah. And it just kind of went from there.
So let me go. So then you did the show, and I know it was like, what did your wife think about this?
Well, actually, now with this many years behind us, in that, she was a little bit apprehensive to begin with, that this was the beginning of my wanting to have a sex change and all that sort of stuff. But now, let's see, I guess it's 7.5 years after the video went live. She just understands that I like girly things. I'm not a girly girl, I'm a girly boy, and I've got my wardrobe that I like and things that I like. And I mean, she buys me things, or will send me links to things on Amazon or shopping sites that she thinks that I would like, or she thinks I would look cute in. So I mean, anymore, it's good.
So she's not certainly isn't threatened by. I like this girly boy term, by the way. That's a great term. Girly boy. So I mean, you're still a boy, but you like your girly things. So how is that? I mean, are you obsessed now, like with clothing and makeup, and how was that for you in terms of wanting to stock your side of the closet?
It's crowded.
I bet. See, I always said, if you're going to change, if you're going to start exploring your girly side, that you need a lot of closet space, because it's the starting out.
The other thing too is, I think, as the pendulum swung, because I don't buy a lot of stuff new just because I'm weird and who I am. I enjoy more than you could ever imagine going thrifting for wardrobe items. And because the other thing is, it saves me money, it's socially responsible, and it makes sure that I'm not going to be wearing anything else that anybody else is going to be wearing.
Yeah, isn't that great? I love the variety on that. I did a lot of consignment shops myself and for a long time, and I used to love going in there because it wasn't cookie cutter. It's like it was creative. I could find something that wasn't in the store and kind of put together an outfit. So you've done that for a while. So do you do that now, as your girly self?
Oh yeah, I do, and I mean, there's a lot of people. I have a particular thrift store that's near us that sadly is closed because of the COVID. But I try and go in there once a week, and it's interesting because It's a huge place that used to be a supermarket, but it's organized so well that you would swear that you were in any kind of retail department store. I mean, things are separated by cut, size, et cetera,
so they
all
lay it out
hanging on racks.
like a nice retail store, right? So it's really a pleasure to go
Exactly.
in there. You don't have to just look through umpteen. You could be at TJ Maxx, or you could be at Bloomingdale's or whatever, Nordstrom. I mean, they've got it laid out. So
Yeah, exactly. And well, just to bring your question full circle, because I tend to blabber a lot.
that's all right.
The interesting thing is that, and I realize this, and I'm kind of like taming it. When I first gave myself permission to have a girly wardrobe, I massively overbought crap that I will probably never wear, just probably because of the pendulum swing. And part of it was just wondering, too, because it's, I don't know, I've never worn capris before. Let's buy, a handful of pair and see
Well,
what
you weren't
works.
sure what your look was, right? I mean, you didn't know what you liked. It was like, it's
Well,
new.
and that's exactly right. And it's
Right.
like now that I kind of am getting my own sense
Style.
of style,
Right.
I know. And the other thing, too, and I didn't actually share this with you earlier, but, aside from that fateful day years ago, I'm generally even my daily work wardrobe is from women's wear. But if you just have a tee and shorts or a tank, on, nobody notices. But I tell you something, once you experience the joy of a little bit of spandex or elastane in your jeans, it's like 501s, oh hell no.
Right. So you really wear women's clothes now, which is, the beauty of women's clothes is that, it's interesting. You can, you can dress it up, you can dress it down. I mean, jeans and a t-shirt could be from the women's department or men's department, except we usually have spandex. I don't think a lot of men have spandex in their jeans unless it's a designer, but,
Well, no, and it's like I found a particularly really comfortable on my foot because I have very high arches. I have a set of you can bleep out the brand if that's bad, but I have some Merrill, like clogged Mary Janes, that they're some of the most comfortable shoes that I have ever worn. And, it's like now these buff-colored Mary Janes are my work shoes. And it's like, don't like it, deal with it.
I have a friend who is, I would say that is similar to yourself in terms of being dual-gendered as such, or certainly cross-dressing. And they wear Mary Janes. Mary Janes seem to be a popular because it's not a heel, and yet it's comfortable. But the Mary Janes, a lot, right? Is this the one? Well, I shouldn't say that. The Mary Janes do have a heel. I think she wears more of the ballet slipper type. I don't know if you're into that. I have a high arch too, and it really is more comfortable to have some support and lift, right? So
yeah.
How big of a heel does that Mary Jane have on it? Is it like a 2-inch heel?
This is almost a flat. It has, I'd say, maybe a quarter to a half an inch.
So it's low.
But I have to tell you, because I probably have, well, okay, I'll say I have more Mary Janes than 50% of the male population because, one never knows. But I actually find, even though they don't have the great arch support, there's some that actually have like maybe an inch to an inch and a half heel that actually help out a more or less chronic back problem that I have.
It's so true, though. People don't realize. I can tell you that when I don't wear, because, I've worn heels forever, but and the older I get, they're not the 4-inch or the 3-inch, or they're down maybe to 2.5, more comfortable. But if I go like barefoot, I feel like I'm much better to have a bit of a heel on because it aligns my back, better. So there is something very therapeutic for what you're saying, but they're fashionably therapeutic. So let me ask you this: did your wife have to give up part of her closet space, or how did you accommodate for all these new clothes that you bought?
Honestly, because we live in a small apartment, and we do crafty things. She just got through a huge, several-year-long model making project. So our place it's a perpetual state of Tetris. It's like this moves in, this moves out. And so it's like, there's a few tubs. There's a lot of my boy clothes that I just got rid of.
Yeah.
And part of that, it was just laziness on my part, simply because of the fact that they were probably either worn out or from when I was massively fat, and they were at the bottom of something, and it's like, no, that pant's not going to fit anymore.
You bring up a point, and I totally forget about this because I never see you as a fat kid, but you do state that you were a very heavy set kid in high school, right? You said you were about 300 pounds when you were growing up in high school.
Yeah, and the thing is, I know that I weighed more, but when I hit 300, I quit weighing because it's like, this is too damn depressing. But I like to think I was 5'9". My wife still says that I'm probably 5'7", give or take. But just to give an aspect ratio, and I might be able to send you a picture of this. Well, actually, one of the pictures is in the video. But imagine 5'7", give or take, and wearing a 46-30 pant.
Yeah. So how did you, was this a weight thing that just started to increase as you got into, did you have some issues with family, or was this just something that just crept on through high school? Because it sounds like it was an issue for you.
I had actually always grown up as a heavy kid. Mm-hmm. And
because to see you now, you're very slight. So I mean, you look like you're athletic, whatever. When did you break the cycle of being that fat kid?
I would have to say that it was in my late teens to early 20s, and I'm glad I did it at that point in time because, mercifully. I'm on the other side of it now, and it's not always pretty, but I lost the weight early enough that my skin had time to kind of rebound and shrink, because it's like, I had stretch marks everywhere, and I was just a mess.
How did you take off that weight?
It was interesting because, stupid nerd that I am, I became fascinated with road bicycle racing, like the Tour de France and things like that, when I was a teenager. And I enjoyed riding bikes anyway, but it's like, something? I'm going to race. And it's like, doofus, it's like, you weigh a metric ton. You're not going to do anything. But I wanted to do it anyway because I figured that there was one event, the time trial, in which if you had huge, strong legs, you wouldn't necessarily suck. And because I was horrible in everything in high school PE, the only thing that I excelled in was weightlifting. And I was big enough and had gnarly enough legs that I could actually do multiple leg presses.
Right. Even at that weight, you were still able to give. Yeah. Wow.
And 750 pounds, which I would like to say at the time was better than Bruce Jenner was doing.
Wow. So you got obsessed with this event, and you started working out to prepare for it.
Yeah, and it's like I cycled whether I did good or not.
Right.
And then I took a job building bikes out in Claremont, which round trip from us is about 50 miles, and I would bike to work and back as part of my training regime.
And this is a bike. This is a bicycle bike, right? Not a. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and you got to remember, I'm a fossil. It was a 10-speed with the shifters on the down tube.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, so
you really took your passion into like something that you like. That biking was very important to you. Not only, you kind of found yourself through your biking
to a degree, but there was also something that was very. There was a point of metabolism hit too, because I was like losing weight at a normal pace, but once I hit about 170, from over 300, so I already look like a shrinky dink. All of a sudden, it's like my weight plummeted, and I went down to like 132 pounds. So it's like if I turned sideways, I disappeared.
Yeah, what happened there? Wow, it's like your body just kicked in and said you're over exercising, obviously.
The funny thing is, when I took that dip, I wasn't.
Huh, interesting.
That was actually during a pause, which is why I figure it's got to be something that was metabolic that just went, okay, we're readjusting here.
Right, so you weren't meant to be, so then you haven't had a problem with your weight since, I bet.
The only time that I did, I buoyed back up to where my regular weight was about, 150, 160. When I stopped smoking cigarettes, obviously after I stopped cycling, I ballooned up to about 190 because I thought, it's like, well, I beat this 300-pound monster before. It's like I'll always gain weight by, stopping smoking. I thought that was nonsense until I was proved otherwise. And then, I humbly ate my hat and paid attention to my diet again. And because of various other issues in life and in the house and everything like that, we eat actually very little meat compared to what we used to. Mm-hmm. I won't say we're vegan, but we're heavily vegetable based, even sometimes to my disagreement. But no, so I'm back down. I've normalized anymore at in the mid 140s.
Wow. Yeah, you look like so. Some of that has to do with, though. Do you find when you're shopping and you're looking at women and you're wearing women's clothing that it sounds like you're actually on the thin side of what your frame should be? Are you keeping your weight down to wear the clothes more appropriately that you feel look better?
Mercifully enough, I'm not really having to do that. It just is kind of an added benefit, but I mean, it was, and you want to talk about the mazes, and I'm sure that you've heard about it before. It's like, gee, what size am I? And it's like, okay, these tins are kind of big, but and that's one of the reasons that I also tend towards women's clothing, is being slight of frame anymore. It fits me better. It's like, you give me a junior 9 on the bottom, I'm good to go all day most of the time.
Yeah, isn't that something? Yeah, it's funny. Well, you're having you're having a lot of fun with the women's clothing and your femme side. I mean, would you say that you have a femme side, or do you think it's mostly about the clothes? How does that translate for you?
No, I definitely have a femme side. I mean, the clothing is involved because I would have to say it's actually kind of intertwined, because one of the things that I love about women's clothing is it's not stiff, it has patterns, it has colors, and it has flow. And I was thinking about this earlier today on the drive back from a job that I was at. It's like I anticipated that you might ask a question like that, and it's like I'm thinking about back from men's wardrobe days, and it's like, well, this looks like a very attractive color of gray to go with this neutral brown, and it's like, no, we're not going there anymore.
Right. So it wasn't too exciting for you. I mean, the men's clothing still are not that exciting compared to women's. I mean,
yeah, it's just been a big, like, kick open the doors, and it's like, okay, so I have a floral skirt with pockets that I like.
So let me ask you this, on your clothing. So your wife sounds like she's artistic. So do you go shopping with her, or are you more of the? Are you like the peacock in the family presentation, clothes wise?
Well, we both seldom actually go out shopping. Mm-hmm. But
okay.
we do a lot of internet sharing of this and that back and forth.
Can you wear each other's clothes? You can. Can you change out each other's clothing?
On the bottoms we can.
Uh-huh.
My 9 works with some of her small medium stuff. On the top, no chance ever, because I have this huge. Even if I don't have my false tatas on, I've got this huge, like, Scots Welsh picked rib cage. So just without any help from nature, or I should say, just naturally without any help from prosthetics, I measure like a 42. 30-ish, 39.
Yeah.
So it's like I've got this huge rib cage.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, you're just gonna go up a size, or you're just gonna have to go up a size, and it's not. You're not going to fit into the same. So it's just, we all are given this like physical structure that we're born with, and that we just dress around it. That's why there's so many different clothes out there. So I want to ask you this: as you came out with your friends, when they blasted on the internet, on the Facebook, you and Drag, how has that been with? And it was suddenly you're out. Discovering that, you do have your femme side, and, you are certainly undefined gender-wise. How did that, you said people were calling you, your friends, they saw it. I mean, how is that, things have settled in now, but how was it an initial coming out for you? It must have been quite, unexpected in terms of one thing to do it at home, another thing to be all over social media with your family and friends.
Especially overnight.
Yeah, I mean, suddenly, and you're not even quite sure, but they, did anyone say, yeah, we thought you maybe like that, or what the hell are you doing, or what?
The interesting thing about it, and it's maybe because I had, the kind of Warhol factory sort of vibe that I was interested in as a teenager. There are some, of course, far religious right people that I was friends with that deserted me immediately, but I thought, okay, something that says more about you than me.
Right.
But the other thing that, on the flip of that I thought was interesting is that I got a handful of personal messages from people on Facebook. It's kind of like, we saw this coming.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm trying to get to. So you kind of wonder what they saw in you before you saw it in yourself. That's really what I'm going with here. So maybe, maybe they saw that.
That kind of revisits one of our previous subjects in the fact that in having taken stock of everything from like a neutral playing field where, it's not, the flashbang grenades aren't going off in my head, I obviously had an eye for a difference in style back in kindergarten, because I remember very distinctly, but it took me years to remember this. I remember very distinctly that it was springtime. I was in kindergarten. There was this girl that I had a crush on, and she was wearing a little pink sleeveless Easter dress with little white polka dots on it. And I was sitting behind her on the bus and saw the zipper up the back, but it was no ordinary zipper. The zipper was a little white egg, and I just had that thought. It's like,
so
why
you
is your
saw
zipper...
it early on then. You remembered. So you were...
Well, I do now, but it's like, why is your zipper better than my zipper?
But you remember the experience. Your eye gravitated to that zipper. I mean, you found it interesting. You liked the...
Well, and the other thing that was really just, a boom to the head to remember is that I think I was probably 8th grade, give or take, probably 8th or 9th. And, going to junior high school and working in the library and just, doing fat boy junior high school things. And there was a girl that I, knew peripherally. It's not like I had a crush on her or anything like that. But I was working in the library, as I recall it, and she came in, and it was, it was spring to summer sort of
so
weather.
What was she doing? What happened there?
She was just like checking out books.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing in particular, but it is the first time that I had seen painted toenails in blue and white striped espadrilles.
See? You loved it.
And I remember, when I think about it, I remember choking back in mid-thought, God, I would love a pair of No You Don't.
Oh, my goodness.
Because, like I said, Battle one was getting over being the fat kid.
Yeah.
And just everything else. I think that this is why...
I was going to say, do you think part of why you ate was because you felt like you were different at the beginning? I mean, maybe there were more of these instances where you noticed, women's clothing and we're looking at it differently. I mean, do you think that was...
I know it. I mean,
So if you got fat, then you wouldn't have to deal with it. There's so much to talk to you about, and I hate to have to end this. Let's have you back and pick up the conversation where we left it, okay? And
I'd love to, because I could burn enough time for a Ken Burns, miniseries.
I'm looking to do some longer shows, so we'll do that. But we're just at the beginning of that conversation, and I do want to get into that next time on your process, because it does sound like it was all tied into early on your kind of hiding your authentic self, because you didn't really quite know what it was, and that was exhibited through your overeating. So anyway, I'm glad where you are today, and Kirk, Khloe, I really, really appreciate you being on the show, and I look forward to you being on next time. So thank you.
And if I can close out with one thing, because I'm just looking at the cheat sheet you gave me about what advice would you give to those dealing with gender issues.
Good, please.
Be genuine to yourself. It's not going to always be easy, pretty, or comfortable, but trust me, you're going to be a happier person. And to quote RuPaul, what other people think of me is none of my business.
Oh, I love it. That's a wonderful line. Thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. And thank you today, everyone, for joining me. I'm humbled to be part of the conversation on gender identity and invite you to keep listening. So thank you so much. You can find previous shows online at KGay 1065. Thank you.